Hey guys, so I wasn't able to be here Friday, so I'm going to give you a little bit of an extra update compared to usual here. Looking at Friday, we actually did put in a new demand that was at 445.88. So the interesting thing about that demand being put in is that we did close with an imbalance. So basically, when you put a demand in, you should close over that level, and when you put a supply in, you should close under that level. However, we closed below the demand. So basically, there's only two ways to settle that. Either you immediately turn around and put a new supply in the very next day, or you bounce up and close over the demand. So this time we ended up choosing to close over the demand. So basically, if you look at this, our main chop zone, I would call it now, is basically 444 to about 450.8. Realistically, we're still in this down channel that we've been in since July 24th, almost a month now. But we're not really making any leeway further down. We didn't quite get to the daily 50 EMA, but we're pretty close. But from here, the way I see it, being that we closed at the daily 8 EMA, we are either going to immediately turn around and double top and come back down and likely close under this 445.9 demand, or we could push through and look to take out the 8 and 20 EMA and test our resistance of this actual consolidation area, which is going to be right there about 450.8. I would not be looking to go longer term long until we realistically closed over 450.8. You could risk on at 448.8. However, I also would not be attempting to go short again until we get really back under this demand. And then we're going to start targeting the 50 EMA, which is going to be right about 442.5 by the time we get to it. Going over to futures here, same thing. We put a demand in on Friday. Now, interestingly enough, futures did close imbalanced. That's a little more uncommon. You don't usually see futures close imbalanced, but it does happen. So what we end up doing is we bouncing, and we are forming our potential. You can kind of see it here, but our potential V bottom. Now, of course, we're still a long way away from going back to the 4600s, but with a closure back over 4486 demand, we are going to start targeting the 8 EMA and the 20 EMA and potentially coming back up to the key 4540 supply. So on futures, realistically, our range is 4480 to 4540, so about a 60-point range. I again would not go long until we see a closure over 4540, and I really wouldn't be going short until we close under 4486 again. Same thing here in futures. You could call this a bounce off the 50 EMA just because we are so close to it, but that's going to be right about that 4457 area. Now, the Qs did have a slightly different chart. The difference in the chart on the Qs was instead of putting a demand in on Friday, the Qs actually put a demand in today. So we now have a new demand at 365.9. This gives a favoritism to retest this demand up here at 371.98. If we touch this and hard reject, we're going to probably come back right back down to 365.9. However, if we close back over 372.7 supply, then our upside target is going to be up here closer to this 375.7. This is pretty similar to this 450.8 area on SPY. So same thing here. I would not be going short until we close back under 365.9. You could risk on about 372 with this target up here. Now, the big difference here in Qs also, because it has had more weakness over the last month, is that we did officially touch the 50 EMA and bounce. So this is a big support area, as you can see, and realistically, this could be our temporary bottom before we continue higher. Now, going on to the VIX, we had broke our up channel here. Since our 17.1 supply, we haven't put a new demand in, and we haven't quite come down low enough to put in a new demand or take out the supply at 1441. So right now our target remains 14.41. We actually have a gap to fill here at 14.302, or also not 32, but also. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The VIX kind of gives us more favoritism of an upside move on SPY and the Qs. But the one big thing to keep in mind here is that we had all these huge wicks to the upside, and we had a big wick to the downside. But this kind of 14 area is a real magnet for us here. And if you remember back here, look at this is how big of resistance this 14.4 was. This could end up being a nice support area that causes a bigger bounce back up on the VIX. But I hope you guys had a good day trading today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.